The envelope was wedged halfway under my apartment door like it didn't want to be seen. I almost stepped over it. I remember the smell first, burnt coffee from the kitchen, rain on hot concrete drifting in through the cracked window. Ordinary Thursday morning. Ordinary life. Until I bent down and saw the word foreclosure stamped across the front in ink that looked too confident. My name was there. Roman Thatcher. 34. Freelance architectural draftsman. The guy who triple checks contracts before signing. The guy who keeps receipts in labeled folders. The guy who thought he understood responsibility. I stood in the doorway reading the notice while the hallway lights flickered overhead. It said my apartment had been used as collateral for a commercial loan that had defaulted 6 months ago. Commercial loan. I don't own a business. But my mom does. Or did. The memory hit me like cold water, her voice last winter, calm and persuasive. It's just paperwork, Roman. Families share responsibility. I never signed anything for her. At least, I don't remember signing anything like that. My hands were steady when I picked up my phone. That's what scared me. No shaking. No panic. Just a strange quiet. When she answered, she sounded relieved. Roman, she said, soft as syrup, I was hoping you'd call. And that was the moment I knew this wasn't an accident. I didn't yell. That's the part people always expect. I walked back inside, shut the door, and put the foreclosure notice flat on my kitchen table like it was a blueprint I needed to study. My coffee maker clicked off behind me. The room smelled bitter and overbrewed. Explain, I said. There was a pause on the other end. Not shock. Not confusion. Calculation. Roman, honey, don't make this dramatic, my mom replied. It was temporary. The bakery just needed breathing room. The bank wanted security. You have good credit. It's still family property in a way. Family property. I bought that apartment at 28 after sleeping on friends' couches for 2 years. I painted every wall myself. Installed the shelves. Fixed the plumbing when it rattled. It was the first thing in my life that felt steady. You used my apartment, I said slowly, without asking me. I did ask, she insisted. You signed something at Christmas. Remember? With the refinancing papers. Christmas. The kitchen table at her house. A stack of documents. Her red sweater. Me trusting her enough not to read every page because she looked tired. My chest tightened. You said it was insurance paperwork. It was, she replied. Business insurance. That wasn't insurance. That was leverage. And as she kept talking about shared sacrifice and temporary setbacks, I opened my email and searched for scanned copies of what I'd signed. There it was. A notarized authorization. With my signature. But not my handwriting. I zoomed in on the signature until the pixels blurred. It looked like mine at first glance, same slant, same looping, R. But the pressure was wrong. I press hard when I write. The downstrokes bite into the page. This one floated. Careful. Practiced. Roman? Are you still there? My mom asked. I swallowed. You forged it. Silence. Then a sigh. The kind she used when I forgot to take out the trash at 16. Don't use that word, she said. I handled paperwork. The bank needed it quickly. I knew you'd agree. That's not consent. It's family. I stared at the foreclosure date, 30 days. 30 days before strangers would tape notices on my door and change the locks. When were you going to tell me? I asked. I was going to fix it before you noticed. The thing about architects is we understand foundations. You can patch a crack in drywall. You can't patch a fractured base. The whole structure shifts. How much? I said. She hesitated. That hesitation told me more than the number. 480,000. My knees went weak. Not because of the amount, because of the certainty in her voice. She believed she was justified. Roman, she added softly, if you take legal action, it'll destroy everything I've built. I looked around my apartment. My couch. My drafting table. The framed photo of us from my college graduation. She had already destroyed something. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like her son. I felt like her collateral. I drove to her bakery that afternoon. The place still smelled like cinnamon and sugar like every Saturday morning of my childhood. The bell above the door chimed when I walked in, cheerful and oblivious. A chalkboard sign near the counter read, "Community is everything." I almost laughed. She was behind the register wearing that same red sweater from Christmas. Flower on her sleeves. Customers lined up for croissants, unaware that the building itself was quietly drowning in debt. She saw me and smiled too quickly. Roman, honey, don't do this here. Then where? I asked. We stepped into the back office. A cramped room with a metal desk and framed awards on the wall. Best Local Bakery 2016. Small Business Grant Finalist. Every plaque felt heavier than it should. You committed fraud, I said calmly. Against your own son. I saved us, she shot back. If the bakery fails, I lose everything. This is my life. And my apartment isn't mine? She pressed her hands to her temples. You don't understand pressure. Bureau. Suppliers. Banks calling every hour. I did what I had to do. That's the problem, I replied. You decided for me. Her eyes hardened. If you go to court, Roman, they'll investigate everything. You'll ruin me. I looked at the framed awards again. At the word community. You already ruined something, I said. Then I walked out. That night I scheduled a meeting with an attorney, and for the first time I chose myself over her. The attorney's office smelled like lemon polish and old paper. His name was Daniel Kessler. Mid-50s. Calm eyes. The kind of man who didn't react quickly, which I appreciated. I laid everything out. The forged signature, the loan documents, the foreclosure notice. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and folded his hands. Roman, he said carefully, this isn't just civil liability. If the signature is fraudulent, this becomes criminal. The word hung in the room. Criminal. I thought about my mom kneading dough at 5 a.m. teaching me fractions using cake recipes. Sitting in the bleachers at my high school games even when I barely played. I don't want to send her to prison, I said quietly. Daniel nodded. Then understand this. Once we file, we can't control how far the investigation goes. The bank will protect itself. I stared at the foreclosure timeline again. 30 days. If I do nothing? I asked. You lose the apartment. Your credit collapses. And the debt remains partially tied to you. So those were the options. Protect my future, and risk destroying hers. Or protect her, and watch everything I built dissolve. I signed the retainer agreement with a pen that felt heavier than it should. As I left the office, my phone buzzed. A text from my mom. We don't sue family. I looked at the courthouse across the street. Maybe we don't. But we also don't steal from them. The investigation moved faster than I expected. Banks don't hesitate when fraud touches their paperwork. Within a week, subpoenas were issued. Loan officers were interviewed. Notary logs were examined. I watched it unfold like scaffolding rising around a collapsing building. I didn't attend the first hearing. I couldn't. Instead, I sat in my apartment, sunlight cutting through the blinds and thin, sharp lines across the floor. Dust floating in the air like suspended questions. I kept thinking about foundations again, how every structure hides stress until one beam carries too much weight. Daniel called mid-afternoon. They've confirmed the signature wasn't yours, he said. His tone was steady, but there was something beneath it. Finality. And? She admitted she signed on your behalf. She claims implied consent. Implied consent. I let out a slow breath. What happens now? The prosecutor decides whether to pursue charges. At minimum, the loan becomes solely hers. The foreclosure against you pauses. I closed my eyes. Relief didn't feel victorious. It felt hollow. That evening, my mom showed up at my door. No makeup. No red sweater. Just a gray coat and hands that wouldn't stay still. You could have talked to me, she said. I did. She looked smaller somehow. They're freezing my accounts, she whispered. The bakery won't survive this. I didn't answer right away, because survival had already become relative. She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. For a second, it felt like I was 12 again and she was checking if I'd cleaned my room. Except this time, the mess was legal documents stacked on my dining table. They're offering a plea, she said, voice thin. If I accept full liability and cooperate, they'll reduce it. No prison. Probation. Restitution. I nodded slowly. And the apartment? She asked. It's protected. The lien's removed. The bank restructured the claim against you. Her jaw tightened. So you win. That word again. I walked to the window. Rain streaked down the glass in uneven lines. There's no winning here. She looked around the apartment, the framed prints, the drafting tools, the shelves I built. I watched something register in her eyes. Not anger. Not justification. Scale. This was your safe place, she said quietly. Yes. She sat down at the kitchen table, hands folded like she was bracing for impact. I kept telling myself I'd fix it before you knew. That it was temporary. That mothers are allowed to protect their children from stress. You weren't protecting me, I said gently. You were protecting yourself. Silence filled the room. Heavy but honest. I don't know how to rebuild from this, she admitted. I did. You start by signing the plea, I said. And by never calling manipulation family again. She nodded once. When she left, she didn't hug me. And for the first time that felt appropriate. The next morning the bakery closed. A small sign taped to the window read, "Under new ownership. Foundations matter. And some buildings only fall so something truer can stand in their place." The day the foreclosure was officially withdrawn, I expected to feel something dramatic. Relief, triumph, closure. Instead I felt quiet. Daniel called at 9:12 a.m., "It's done," he said. "Your name is clear. The property is fully restored to you." I thanked him, hung up, and stood in the middle of my living room. Same couch. Same shelves. Same faint scratch on the hardwood from when I moved the drafting table too fast. Nothing had changed. Except everything had. A week later I walked past the bakery. The new owners had repainted the sign. The chalkboard now advertised grand reopening specials. Through the window I saw different hands shaping dough. Different laughter. My mom was inside too. Not behind the register. At a small table near the back, filling out paperwork. An employee badge clipped to her sweater. She caught my reflection in the glass before she saw me directly. We didn't wave. But she didn't look away either. Probation meant she couldn't own a business for a while. Restitution meant she'd be paying back the debt for years. Not ruined. Not erased. Accountable. I kept walking. Back to my apartment. Back to the place that was never meant to carry someone else's burden. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The air smelled like fresh paint. I'd finally covered the scuff marks near the entryway. Clean lines. Clean walls. Foundations matter. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone isn't to hold them up. Is to refuse to be the thing they stand on.